Now there's a steal by Bird. Underneath the DJ, lays it in.
Pierce for three. It's good. Tatum puts up a three. Bang!
Welcome to the Celtics Rewind. I'm JP.
And I am Nat, the GM. What's up, y'all?
Hey, y'all. This is episode 12 of the Celtics Rewind, talking all things Boston Celtics. We are still the only NBA team that's have single-digit losses, and we're still undefeated at home, too, as well. So I'm yours truly, JP, the franchise. Got my co-host, Nat, the GM, with me. Nat, what's up? How you doing?
I'm feeling good, feeling great, and we are still the best in the NBA.
Oh yeah, for sure. You still going to you're going to redeem yourself for your Bucks take? Would you want to take the Bucks take back after last week, or?
Absolutely not. I will never take it. You have to score 140 points to be an average NBA team. I am not taking anything back. We are going to beat them.
Hey, make sure we'll give Giannis the ball when he scores 100 points so that he doesn't go out and look for it. So, but but we got a very special guest, and when I tell you, it's an honor just to have him on the show. We have Mr. Aubre Jones with us. Aubre is the son of NBA legend, Hall of Famer, former Boston Celtic Sam Jones. I believe he was a 10-time champion, if I'm not mistaken, 10-time champion, or.
And, just 10 rings.
Just 10.
Hey, that's still a lot of rings right there. So, yeah, even Michael Jordan can't get 10 rings, though. But legend, one of the greatest players of all time, Mr. Jones, how you doing today? Thank you so much for coming on to Celtics Rewind.
Not a problem. I'd love to talk anything, all things about the Celtics. As much as I don't get the chance to watch them on a daily basis because they're not on TV all the time, I do get a chance to listen to the games on the radio and also get a chance to see them whenever they're on national TV.
Amen to that. You know, we love our Celtics here. So last week they came out with a 2-2 record. The first game that they had was against the Indianapolis Pacers, which they beat previously to as well. And this game was a little bit different. No, wasted a 40-point performance by Jaylen Brown, but they ended up, coming back though after Tyrese Haliburton went down with an injury, and then just out of nowhere, just a lot of Pacers were just shooting the lights out, like Bennett Mathurin and Buddy Hield. But Celtics kind of fought their way back and stuff, and then they went into overtime, and it still wasn't enough as they were defeated by the Pacers 133-131. Mr. Jones, I want to start off with you. What's your takeaways and thoughts about the Boston Celtics loss against the Indiana Pacers?
I listened to that game on the radio, and when Haliburton went down, I basically gave the Celtics the win at that point in the second quarter. I didn't think Indiana had enough to come back, but the Celtics decided they didn't want to play any defense in the third quarter, and it was unbelievable. I think they allowed 44 points in the third quarter, and that's 44 points is like a half. My father was playing, and Coach Auerbach was coaching, and a team scored 44 and a half. There'd be some hell to pay. Mm-hmm. So 44 in the third quarter alone, it's not that Indiana has that great of players that are making all the shots. We just didn't play any defense. Not having Tatum on that game. I think he sat out. Was that the game he sat out? I think it was. He didn't play in that game. But still, there's no excuse for letting Indiana score 44 points in the third quarter. That killed us.
Yeah, that's no excuse at all. I'm still recovering, from therapy after, the next day when they score 44 points and the therapist was like, "You okay?" I said, "No, I'm not. They scored 44 points in the third quarter. I can't get that through my head. That image is in my head." And Buddy Hield just, you know what? Anyways, moving on with that. Nat, what is your take? What's your thoughts about this loss to the Pacers, though? Because I did say that they was going to come out with a 1-1 record. Like, they'll win one game against the Pacers and the Pacers going to win the next game, but I didn't expect it like this. So what's your takeaways and thoughts about it?
My takeaway is, I think of this as the long game, and they can't win them all. Then they weren't going to go 82-0, and I think these are the games, unfortunately, that you kind of got to look at and just be like, they lost. My problem was when Tatum doesn't play, they struggle mightily defensively. Tatum, it means so much to this team defensively that it hurts when he doesn't play. Brown does have to go for 40, but maybe had Tatum been there, maybe he gets 10 to 15 less points, but everybody's locking in defensively, so we don't have to go that extra mile. It When they lost, you have to look at that third quarter. I don't know what it is. It's like it's a curse with them in the third quarter with other teams, but 44 points is ridiculous. That's literally 2 quarters in one, for a lot of games, So what I just looked at, with that game is, defensively, big issue. I have another issue with them in their free throws. It seems that they miss a lot of free throws this year in general with games. So that's kind of what I took away from it. But no Tatum, and we just kind of struggled defensively, unfortunately.
Facts right there. And the rebounding battle was a little bit more closer than it was the previous game against them. Well, the Celtics were out rebounding them by a lot. But then this game, unfortunately, they still won the rebound, but it was only by 3 rebounds, unfortunately, though. So it was a different dynamic of a game. And I guess they thought it was going to be kind of easy, like you said, Mr. Jones, with Halliburton going down. They thought they'd probably going to beat the Pacers pretty good, and then Pacers just came out and shot lights out. They're one of those teams that, sometimes you just don't really expect them to shoot lights out, but they do. So great victory for the Indianapolis Pacers. Indiana Pacers, I keep saying Indiana Pacers. So 133 to 131, the final score. But we're moving on to the game that everybody was excited for. Revenge game, like that sweet chocolate cake that you eat right there. That's just right there with the Minnesota Timberwolves. And when I tell you that was a hell of a game, it was a hell of a game. It went into overtime yet again. Well, Boston doesn't win. It's not good when it comes to overtime, but they pulled it off right there, 127 to 120. Jason Tatum with that clutch 3, me mugging the camera and everything. Mr. Jones, what do you take away from this victory over Minnesota and Boston getting over the hump?
Again, Minnesota had beaten the Celtics earlier in this season, so it's not like they're again a horrible team. They're a good young team. It seems like there's a ton of good young teams with players that I go, where did they play college? Or where did they play college? I've never seen these guys play. And all of a sudden they're coming out and they're hitting 30 against the Celtics. But beating Minnesota at home is something you're supposed to do. You're supposed to do that. And sometimes the Celtics come out and lay an egg in some of those games. This year at home, they haven't laid any eggs. They just recently, I don't know if you know, but my father's team was the last team that had gone 17-0 in their first 17 games at home, and now the Celtics surpassed them. So, as my father used to always say, our records are made to be broken. And granted, it took 60 years for them to break that record of 17 consecutive opening game, wins from the opening of the season. But the Celtic team's a good team. The Celtic team is a good team, and you got to beat the teams like Minnesota in your own place. You just got to do it. And again, when Tatum's on fire like that, man, it's tough to lose those games.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I just love the meme mode for Jason Tatum. I just really loved it so much. And then Minnesota being the number 1 seed in the West, so that felt good to beat the number 1 team over there in the West. Nat, same to you. What's your takeaways and thoughts of Boston's victory over the Timberwolves?
That was a great win. It was probably one of my favorite wins of the season versus such a good team. Minnesota has been phenomenal all year. It's a big turnaround from last year to this year, or from 2 years ago to this year. It's a completely different team. They're finally learning how to play together, and they just needed an extra year with Gobert to really, put it all together. So this is not a slouch of a team. They are probably number 1 defensively, or they are top 3 defensively. I don't know how the metrics are right now. They ebb and flow, but they are up there because they are so damn good. When it comes to this game, Jason Tatum, I believe, had 5 points in the first quarter. And then he just goes on a run after that. And it was good versus this team. These guys have long memories. Now, in that first game versus Minnesota, Anthony Edwards got the better of Jason Tatum. And Jason Tatum remembers that. Also in that game, Jaylen Brown had defensive lapses. And we remember, I think one of the biggest reasons they lost that game was we kept leaving, what is the young man's name? McDaniels open in the corner.
Jaden McDaniels. Mm-hmm.
Kept leaving him open. And he had about 20-something points, I believe. And that's really what killed it. You're over-helping, you're overthinking. It was just doing too much and not enough at the same time. This game, it was a difference. It was a completely different ball game because now Tatum has 45 points. He's going at Anthony Edwards. They're making him stumble defensively. It was just a completely different effort. McDaniels had 5 points this time. He was not, a big issue this time around. So these guys remember that. Karl-Anthony Towns, who I am a fan of. I really do like Karl-Anthony Towns. I think he is very talented and very underrated now with how he's evaluated in this league. But he had 25, 13, and 6 with 2 steals. That's a pretty, good stat line for a big man. And then Anthony Edwards had 29, 6, and 3. And then you have Reed off the bench with 19, 10, and 3. He's a really good player off the bench. So this game was just who wants it more. And is Boston want to keep their foot on the pedal. Like, who wants to win this game? And Tatum said, follow me, I got it. And then Brown, he had 35 points, and guys just kind of did, their job. And that's one thing that I really like about this team this year is they are more settled. They're not as frazzled as they used to be. And they take time and realize we have a lot of time on that clock. Let's make the right play. So it was a great win.
Yes, it was. It was a great win, for the Boston Celtics and the fans too as well, beating Minnesota. So that felt really good. Yeah, and also Porzingis didn't play as well that game, but unfortunately he did have to play the next game. And I'll tell you what, we was just not prepared for that next game. The very next night, I mean, TNT, we want to at least have a good game on TNT, but that didn't really went well. That first quarter didn't really went well. I had to call my therapist a couple of times just to make sure that I was okay. And yeah, it was just not good. It was just not good at all. So the Bucks came out with a vengeance because that loss to Utah really hurt their soul, and they decided to take it out on the Boston Celtics, who beat them pretty badly first time around. So yeah, 135-102 at the Bucks. Mr. Jones, yeah, we was not prepared for this game, unfortunately. What did you see? What type of lapses, or was they tired from a back-to-back game? What's your takeaways and thoughts about this game?
Oh, it's definitely the back-to-back. Going from Boston to Milwaukee and playing the next night, it's almost like they shouldn't have got off the plane because, I mean, they were, again, another game where they gave up 40 in a quarter. And again, giving up 40 in a quarter takes a lot of effort or lack of effort when you're giving up 40 in a quarter. And the Celtics were down big. I mean, scoring only 15 points in the second quarter. Again, they should have stayed on the plane. They should have just called it in and stayed on the plane. Milwaukee's tough. Milwaukee is, to me, still the toughest team in the league to play against. I mean, with Antetokounmpo and Middleton's the guy. When Middleton plays, well, we got no shot. And he didn't even, it wasn't even in his game the other day. Portis played well. I mean, going on a 25-0 run. Again, those are things that just don't happen in a normal NBA game. But 25-0, it's like, nope, no, it's not going to be our night. Not going to be our night. That's kind of like what the Cowboys said the other night, playing football. It's just not going to be our night.
Oh yeah, I didn't think the Cowboy Memphis was going to be awesome.
I hope we don't have too many Dallas Cowboys. I don't hope we don't have too many Cowboy fans.
I had to call my cousin earlier today. I was like, "You okay from that loss yesterday?" He said, "I'm fine. It's just them Eagles I have to worry about
It ain't okay.
tonight."
It ain't okay.
Right?
That loss was embarrassing. That was embarrassing.
Yeah, it was terrible just to watch right there. Nat, same question to you. I know you've been going off on the Bucks and stuff, and you still ain't gonna give away you're still not going to redeem your takes and stuff, which is totally fine with me and all that. What's your thoughts about this game? And then I do have a follow-up question for both of y'all. So what's your thoughts about this game?
You know me, JP. I don't take away anything I say. Um, I don't think they cared, honestly, about this game. I don't. I just don't see it. It looked like they were like, yeah, we got to go to Milwaukee. And Milwaukee was basically like, we really have to win this game. We need this game because we are sick of losing to the Boston Celtics. We have to win. So they came out with a vengeance. They came out with a game plan. They came out with they needed this win. They needed that boost, and Boston has pretty much beaten every type of team in the league so far. Every type in every type of way. They have won close games. They have won blowouts. They have beaten the top 3 teams on both sides. They've beaten every kind of team. They honestly don't necessarily have anything to prove to other people. It's about themselves at this point. Are we going to buckle down and actually get this done now? So kudos to Milwaukee. I think that they really need to win. It doesn't make me feel any differently about Milwaukee. Defensively, I think that they still can't, guard a parked car. So with that being said, I can't wait to play them in the playoffs.
I like that. Can't park a park car. That's good. But yeah, the highest score of that game is Peyton Pritchard with 21 points, I believe, and that's the first time the Bucks beat the Celtics since 2022. Question for both of y'all regarding this game. Was that a good decision for Joe Mazzulla to bench the starters in that third quarter and let the bench players play the rest of the game? Was that a good idea or was it a bad idea? Because it was like a little controversy from inside the NBA. Barkley believed that they made the right decision to bench the starters. Shaq and Kenny was like, no, if you get your butt whooped like that, you better get back into that game and play. So what y'all think about that decision by Joe Mazzulla by benching the starters?
Personally, for me, I have no problem with coach's decision to sit the starters down. Again, we were getting blown out. I don't think even if they stayed in the game, okay, instead of losing, by 30 something, we're going to lose by 16. I like giving the other guys some time to play. The Celtic team will not win this championship unless they handle the load management, whether it's Al Horford and his old, being old. I mean, Al's an old player in the NBA, and he's very important to the Celtics, but they got to make sure at the end of the season, he's not running on fumes. So whether it's Tatum, who sits a game or two, or Porzingis, who I think is maybe the most important player on this team, because I didn't realize that I knew he was always a great offensive player and shooter, but I didn't realize how many block shots he gets just by being 7'2". And being a rim protector. He's kind of like Robert Williams, except he can shoot from 3-point land. And Robert, you hope never even thought about shooting from the 3-point line. So this team definitely needs to handle the load management any way they can. And this was a good example of them resting those guys the rest of the game, because it was a game that was just out of control.
I thought it was a great decision, honestly. What do you have to prove? Why do they have to stay in this game and try to get back in it? They don't have anything to prove to the Milwaukee Bucks. They've beaten them already this year, actually. So why would you risk Al Horford, number one? I think he was 38 or 39 years old, right? Now, in basketball years, we know that that's up there, So why run him in the ground, making him chase off Giannis, trying to hold up Giannis when you have to see Giannis in another 4 months? Why? What point is that? And you also have to play the next game. Jason Tatum, you just had 45 points the night before, but I don't want you to go kill yourself. and try to get another 40, because we need to do it. Sometimes, you may not like it, but it's still a good decision. Doesn't mean they're running from anything. It doesn't mean that, they feel like they can't beat someone. Doesn't mean that they're not competitors. We know that these guys are competitors. But you have to think, is this worth it? And should I do this to my guys? And I think that Joe was spot on in sitting everybody down. The other side to that is the bench. The bench, there's guys that don't get a chance to play, as much as you would like, or excuse me, as they would like. Why not give Savi a chance to play? Because he shoots threes. And he's very efficient from 3-point land. He doesn't get to play a lot. Pritchard, whether you go back and forth with with the trade deadline, what's going to happen. But if this is your team, why not give those guys ample opportunity to show that they can compete and they deserve some minutes? This was a great decision, and I have no issue with what Joe did.
I agree with you 100% too as well. Great points by both of you. Speaking of coaching, our good old friend Ime Udoka came back into the Boston Garden, TD Garden, this past Saturday with his new team, the Houston Rockets. I was waiting for a tribute video, but that didn't really happen, unfortunately. So, but anyway, so the Celtics defeated the Rockets in a pretty bad fashion, 145 to 113. I guess, they needed a little bit of some rest, and then probably was a little mad about the way they got defeated by the Bucks, so they had to take it out on the Udoka and the Houston Rockets and all that. Shout out to Alpha Sangoon. I think he's going to be an all-star reserve this year. I hope he is, because he's having a fabulous season. Mr. Jones, I'll start with you. What's your takeaways and thoughts of Boston's victory versus the Houston Rockets, and was still undefeated at home?
Yeah, I've seen some of the Houston highlights, and there are not many. There are not many. Houston, Coach Udoka has a tough year at hand with, again, a young team that's still learning how to play. They're not ready for prime time yet. I love Ime. I thought he was a great coach for the Celtics. Sorry he had to go through the stuff he did, but it was his own fault. So no blame except for his own. I don't like abusing the Rockets like we did last Saturday, but some teams got to pay the brunt when you get beat up by the Bucks that a couple days before. So Houston just happened to be the next person on the table. So
yeah, it's always like that saying goes, Houston, we have a problem right there. So, Nat, what's your takeaways and thoughts with Houston losing dominantly by the Boston Celtics?
I'm gonna agree with Mr. Jones here. They're just not ready, to play against a team like Boston. They're not necessarily ready for prime time, and that's okay. They're young. They have a bunch of guys in their first, second, and third year. They're trying to figure it out. You have you have your new head coach. This is his first season, and this is his first 40 games with the Houston Rockets. What did you expect? This team has a lot of guys that I think that in a few years they're going to be very good players. Sangoon is number one on my list on that team. That's going to be very good. And you play against a Boston Celtics team who just got beat, get a little rest, and now it's like, all right, who's going to get it today? And it just happened to be the Houston Rockets. So it's nothing. No, it's not a fault to the Houston Rockets or anything like that. But they'll get it, just not this year. They just ran into the wrong team.
Yeah, that's facts right there. Shout out to Cam Whitmire too as well. He had 20-something points, so he had a really good game against the Boston Celtics though, but it still wasn't enough to beat Boston. Still have the best record in the league, the only NBA team with single-digit losses, still undefeated at home. Shout out to Boston and the 2-2 record last week. So now we're going to get into the next thread of games too as well, and getting your predictions and what game you're looking forward to. So they have the Toronto Raptors tonight on MLK Day. after Raptors. Then they have the San Antonio Spurs going back to Boston. Then this is the game I'm actually looking forward here is the Denver Nuggets versus the Boston Celtics this Friday. And then they have the Houston Rockets this Sunday, I believe, at Houston. Mr. Jones, what game are you looking forward to? What's your predictions? How are they going to do well in these next three games here?
Well, Friday night's game against Denver is a must-see TV type of thing. I believe it's here on ESPN here, so it is one of the games that we get to watch on a Friday night. I'm not going out on any dates on Friday. I'm going to sit right in front of my TV, my big screen, and watch this game. That Denver Nuggets team is awesome. I mean, not only are they the NBA champs, I saw them play the Celtics a couple of years ago. I just happened to be in Denver for Thanksgiving weekend, and the Celtics were in town. And I don't see the Celtics play in other arenas often, except for the one here in D.C. when they come down to play the Wizards. But I saw them play at Denver. I was impressed with Denver's team 3 years ago, and they continue to get better every year. This has the potential to be the first loss for the Celtics at home this year. I'm hoping it won't. I could see the Celtics literally going, 40-0 at the TD Garden this year. That's if everybody plays. And the big thing is, will Tatum and Porzingis and Brady Brown all play that game? Because it seems like when they play all three of them in that lineup at the same time, their winning percentage is even higher than the 750% winning percentage they have right now. So that Denver game is gonna be fun. I hope we go and kick their butts personally, but I expect a tough game.
It's going to be a really good game, Wyatt. I can't wait for it. Nat, same question to you. Your game that you're looking forward to. Obviously, I know the answer, but your prediction of how Boston's going to do in the next 30 games.
I'm looking forward to, there's only one game, and that is the Denver Nuggets. And the other teams, they're young. It's going to be what it's going to be. It proves nothing. But this particular game versus the Denver Nuggets, they're both 40 games in. So now you are a creature of habit. So now we have habits on both sides. Now teams have developed how they're going to play for the rest of the season. And therefore, Boston has built great habits. But the one team that you have to show how you stack up against is the Denver Nuggets, because they are very similar in a lot of ways in how they play, but we have to see how Boston's going to defend, Jamal Murray. How are you going to defend Jokic? As phenomenal as Jokic is, how are you going to do that? What is your paint presence going to be like? How's Porzingis going to play against Jokic? How's Al Horford going to play? In that game. What is your strategy? What is your game plan, Joe? This is what we're looking for. How does Tatum play with Michael Porter Jr. Guarding him? How does, Brown play, with KCP guarding him? These are the questions that I think that everyone really wants to know, because I think both of them remind each other of the other team. So this is the game that you can potentially look at like, oh, this could be a finals matchup, and it could be. So I think Boston better take this seriously and bring their A game, because if you beat this team and you build some confidence, there's not a team left in the league that I don't think they can beat.
That is a possible NBA Finals matchup. I said the same thing last year, but yeah, that didn't go well last year, unfortunately, though. But the starting five for Boston versus the starting five for Denver, I cannot wait for that game this Friday. So it's going to be great, and hopefully Boston comes down with the 4-0 record. Like I said, I could see the loss against the Nuggets here. But it's going to be good. It's going to be tough. Like I said, this schedule this month is really tough for Boston, but they're doing really well so far. So can't wait to see what they do these next stretch of games. Mr. Jones, we really appreciate you coming on the Celtics Rewind. Like, it's just an honor, and just thank you so much. My last question, you have like any really good, funny stories that your dad told you with his days playing for the Celtics? Any Bill Russell stories that he told you about?
Well, again, I knew all these players, every one of the players that you mentioned. Um, I think my biggest thing from being the son of a Celtic is Red Auerbach, the coach. Even when he was coaching Boston, he always lived down here in Washington, D.C. Uh, I'm wearing my GW athletics shirt. Coach Auerbach went to George Washington University. I worked there for 32 years. And during my time working there, Coach would come into the building a lot of times. He came to almost all of our home games, you know, in the last 20 years of his life because it's his alma mater. And he would come in and he would play racquetball with me and whether it was a vice president of the university or a president of the university, athletic director, we play racquetball 3 times a week. So Coach Auerbach was such a competitor, even in his 70s. I mean, he'd be running around the court. Nowadays, it would be pickleball, but back then it was racquetball. But the relationship that I had with Coach Auerbach over his last 20 years was almost like he was my grandfather. And this is somebody that I met the first time when I was like 2 years old, going into the Boston Garden, and he was my dad's coach. So I'm really thankful to have had Coach Auerbach as not only a mentor and a friend, but an opponent, and I get to kick his butt every now and then in racquetball. But you know what? I helped to keep him in shape, and we had a great relationship until the day he passed away. So again, I'm a Celtic for life. If you can see my father's jerseys right over my shoulder, right on the top of my head is a picture of me and Coach Auerbach after one of our racquetball matches. So as far as the Celtics go, we're a family. And it really, I mean, if you're a part of that family, as I have been for over 60 years, it's a family I don't want to get out of. There's no divorce ever coming from this family. These are my guys, and I bleed Celtic green. So it's been a pleasure to be on your show talking about the Celtics. Listen to you guys talk. I listened to a couple of your shows before coming on today, and I said, man, these guys are crazy about the Celtics. They do like the Celtics. So I love these podcasts that come on and just talk to the average, ordinary guy. And again, I told you earlier, I just wish I was half as good as my dad. If I was half as good, I would have made a whole lot of money. So, but I'm happy to be the son of Sam Jones. So.
Man, that's an amazing story. Once again, we really appreciate you coming on. Like, it's just an honor for me, just being a Celtic fan all my life and just respecting the history and tradition and the players that played for the Celtics and just wearing that uniform. It's just an honor. So just thank you so much. And this is episode 12 of the Celtics Rewind. Thank you so much for tuning in, Celtic fans. And we'll be back on next week. I'm JP, the franchise. She's Nat, the GM. That's Aubre Jones, Mr. Jones. And we'll see y'all later. Peace, y'all.
Later.